room, be it a meeting room, a briefing room, a boardroom, a courtroom. And what I want you to remember is that we are all in that room with you. I want you to remember that when you walk in those rooms, you come with people. And you carry the voice of people who are so proud of you and expect a lot of you.
Democratic lawmakers are finally making huge progress on the fourth stimulus package, and it has been decided that billions of dollars in unused relief money will be going towards new stimulus checks for certain Americans. If you want to receive this fourth stimulus check, then be sure to continue watching this video because you definitely don't want to miss out on this. The Pennsylvania legislature has until June 30th to pass a new budget approaches. Pass a new budget, support for some spending of the state's billions of dollars in remaining stimulus money and surplus tax revenue is gaining bipartisan action. Discussions are preliminary and top budget negotiators want to reach a deal as soon as possible, but lawmakers, lobbyists, and top staff pointed to a small number of partisan proposals that have been put forward. On issues from the environment to childcare, there could be building blocks for a spending plan. The House Appropriations Committee Chair told reporters this week that we move forward trying to identify areas of agreement first, and then we'll identify areas of disagreement and try to work through those. Each year, Pennsylvania's governor and legislature must agree on how to route tens of billions of dollars to education, economic development, and human services. These are decisions that affect every person in Pennsylvania. But the state's financial picture has changed in recent years, with the state's coffers getting $8 billion boost from stimulus money in 2021. In response, Wolf and his legislative allies called on the legislature to spend some of that windfall on higher education, paid family leave, and school repairs, among many other priorities. Early this year, Wolf released a budget proposal that would appropriate billions of dollars more to education and infrastructure. Republicans countered that additional spending would actually fiscally be responsible. But everybody, Pennsylvania still has about $2 billion in remaining stimulus money, and at least $5 billion in surplus tax revenue. To address the soaring cost of living and inflation, Governor Wolf is pushing the legislature to approve using American Rescue Plan money to give people $2,000 stimulus checks. They would go to every household earning less than $80,000, which is the majority of people in Pennsylvania. Other issues are getting Republican attention, everybody, like more state funding for childcare and pre-K, nursing home, and housing. Progressive lawmakers have been building bipartisan support for a broad housing plan, Whole Homes Repair Fund, which would actually use stimulus money to provide grants to homeowners and landlords alike to make renovations big and small. After 2 years and 6 relief bills into the crisis, the U.S. has spent the majority of its available stimulus relief funding, but billions of dollars across a handful of categories have not gone out the door. Beginning under the former president and continuing now with President Biden.
Her son received his stimulus check, an actual paper check, which she was trying to help him find where to cash without being charged a fee.
I just feel like I'm being cheated, robbed.
PLS check cashing takes 1% plus $1, meaning only $13 in fees on a $1,200 stimulus check. Other check cashing services said they would charge the government.
We finally have some breaking news, everybody. Important information has been released by the IRS, and lawmakers are actually working on making some big changes that will affect inflation and the current cost of living adjustment, meaning that many of you guys could expect to receive a stimulus check in a couple of days. So here are some new details on what the federal government is doing right now. Right now, Americans are hoping for wage gains to offset the hottest inflation in 40 years, but there are a number of factors that could impact your take-home pay in 2023. And because inflation is rising so sharp, the IRS and other agencies are changing many rules to account for the increase in prices. For instance, the tax agency said this week that it's boosting its 2023 tax brackets by 7% because of inflation. This is a move designed to avoid bracket creep, which is when people get pushed into higher tax rates because of cost of living salary adjustments, although their standard of living hasn't even changed. And the IRS is also increasing the standard deduction by the same percentage, which will benefit most taxpayers who use this tax break. Inflation adjustments to tax brackets mean it will be harder for taxpayers to hit those higher brackets, and therefore we'll have more income taxed at lower rates next year. So what does this mean for you? Well, the interplay is that these changes is complex, but the upshot is that many low and middle income taxpayers may be able to trim their taxes as a result. The outlook is more since mid-2022, politicians have warned Americans and a growing number of tax people to be exact about this. And the IRS has said that it wants to hire new employees using funds from the $80 billion allocated to the Inflation Reduction Act. But according to several experts, the IRS does not plan to use all of that funding for hiring purposes alone. As the New York Times pointed out, the IRS total number of full-time employees is 20% fewer than what the agency had in 2010. Even though the population has grown, to bolster its numbers, the agency plans to hire using a lot of money, with roughly $7,200 of those being hiring enforcement staff. This would add to the 5,000 phone personnel the agency hired before the 2023 tax season began. Increased funding to the agency would help it more experienced auditors who can handle complicated tax filings. It could help the agency close the annual gap between what is owed and what is collected. The agency has said that it wants to help taxpayers get the deductions and tax credits they deserve. Right now, the focus is on providing eligible and educational materials that break down deductions in plain language. So hopefully people can get their stimulus cash. Folks, we have a lot of news about the fourth stimulus check, Social Security benefits, SSI, and SDI. Continue watching this video because you don't want to miss out on this. For the vast majority of Social Security beneficiaries, their monthly check is vital to their financial well-being. After 20 years of annual polling, it is found that no less than 80% of retirees rely on their Social Security benefit in some capacity to meet their monthly expenses. But with the U.S. debt limit and ceiling deadline looming, more than 66 million beneficiaries are wondering whether the Social Security checks will be on the shopping block. The debt ceiling represents the authorized borrowing limit for the federal government. It's important to keep in mind that it doesn't include borrowing for new spending or projects. Rather, it's to cover the federal debt limit and existing financial obligations. At no point in America's history has the federal government defaulted on its legal financial obligations, which is why the current debt limit impasse between Democrats and Republicans on Capitol Hill was turning heads. The expectation prior to this week is that Treasury lawmakers had perhaps 2 or 3 months to agree on a bill that would raise or suspend the debt ceiling in order to allow the federal government to meet its financial obligations. The Treasury Secretary and a former Federal Reserve. Folks, Republicans have veiled a new proposal, and this new relief plan will go to a more targeted group of people. The targeted group of people will include people like on Social Security, SSI, and SDI. The Biden administration is approving this relief to help people with inflationary pressures. Nearly 40 million people live below the poverty line in the United States, making up to 11% of the population. In terms of poverty, Mississippi is the poorest state in America with a poverty rate of 18%, followed by Louisiana and also New Mexico. But some lawmakers are trying to pass a different piece of bill that would actually affect many households. Republicans in Congress are proposing an expansion of child tax credit that would boost refunds and include credits for unborn children, and Representative Ashley Hinson, the Iowa Republican, proposed a package for legislation known as the Providing for Life Act, and Representative Hinson's measure includes 9 other bills aimed at bolstering federal benefits for families. The bill would boost the refundable tax credit from $2,000 to $4,500